I rise to offer support to Amendments 11, 22 and 24 in the name of the Noble Lord, Lord Vaux of Harrod. And although I start from a very different position from the Noble Lord on nuclear power and also perhaps where my areas of concern lie, because I think it's really important here that we're talking about ultimate ownership and control identified and verified. We're looking at ensuring that any change of ownership is clear. And when I looked at this, I inevitably thought about what's happened with our water companies, and indeed what's also happened with some privatised elements of our NHS, where we've seen GP surgeries sold off through a chain, and sometimes the ownership and the sale has only become clear several times down the track. Now, when we're talking about something as crucial, strategic, and potentially dangerous as nuclear power generation, ensuring that there is clarity about where control lies, I think is very obvious, and I'm not just looking at that from a national perspective, but much more broadly. And I think also I'll comment particularly on the Noble Lord McNichol's Amendment 19, and the important elements in that about transparency of costs and ensuring that those costs and the spending is fully declared, something where we've seen, as I was talking about last night in the Health and Care Bill, where we see complex financial engineering, pumping money, public money that's being paid in, supposedly in that case for care, or that might be paid in for power, being pumped out into dividends through complex financial instruments. Since this is the first time I've risen to speak in this committee, I do also just want to briefly pick up one point raised by the Noble Lady Baroness Wilcox, that we are now in unprecedented times in European history. And I think what's happened since second reading is the events in Ukraine, at Zaporizhzhia, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, where a building, not the reactor, but a building was set on fire during a time of bombardment from all sides on the Ukrainian account from Russian forces. We have the International Atomic Energy Agency expressing grave concerns about the safety. And it's worth noting that even after those reactors are switched off, they need weeks of cooling down. There is pools of spent fuel rods which require safe storage for several years. This is, as the Noble Lady Baroness Wilcox said, put us in a different situation to we were even weeks ago. And I'm going to point to something else that it will take a second for the reasons to come clear, but there's an Australian town called Lismore that I know very well. Lismore is a town that floods. Lismore has always flooded. Lismore, 100 years ago, they built a church high on the hill to make sure it wouldn't flood. A couple of decades ago, they built a shopping centre that was floodproof. My lords, Lismore has just flooded with significant loss of life. Both the shopping centre and the church have flooded. We are in unprecedented times, and I really do ask your Lordship's committee to think about the fact that we, in putting public money into the idea of a nuclear power plant, have to guarantee stability, political stability, military stability, climate stability, which we know we won't have, for 6 or 7 decades at a minimum. I would ask if anyone truly believes we can guarantee that we can continue to safely operate a nuclear power plant in 6 or 7 decades' time in the world we live in today. And I believe that has to underlie all of our debates today.